Welcome to Just an Average Citizen podcast, the podcast that helps to educate, inform, and empower you to make an impact in Abilene and the Big Country. Thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. We have a lot of great things to talk about, I think, and I hope to keep this short and sweet so that you can take what I've shared here and learn how to apply it and do something useful with it. So I find that most people don't know what's going on in our city and they don't even know where to get started. So what I'm trying to do is make it easier for you. I've done a lot of the heavy lifting to get through a lot of the red tape in the beginning. And now we're to the part where you can use what you know and what you learn to help get some things accomplished. So it'd be super awesome if you would subscribe and share this with your family and friends so they too can know what's going on. I think we as citizens have done a very poor job of taking care of our responsibility of being educated, informed on knowing what's going on in our city for far too long. And so our council, elected representatives, and city officials have been responsible for making all the decisions. And when they don't do what we like, we find we're very frustrated, but we didn't realize we actually had more input and say in the process along the way. And so one of the things I have learned is that we're about 2 years. What happens today started about 2 years or more ago. And so when you get things on the city council meeting agenda or on the meeting agenda, like the dog park for $1 million, that didn't happen last week. It didn't happen last month. It's been in the works since I believe 2020, maybe 2022. And so there's been a lot of things in works that we've missed out on because we haven't been paying attention. And so we can't stop some of this madness, like spending $1 million on a dog park, if we're not a part of the earlier conversations to let them know we're not okay with this process. And so one of the things I try to do is always bring some things to their attention when I find it necessary. And one of the things that happened is I've just noticed, we have this animal shelter going in, and I'm just trying to figure out how much we've spent on the animal shelter that is going to be managed by a third party. And it's not even going to be managed by the city, although there's still some financial investments that we're making to buy the property, build the property, and then do some other things. But it's hard to track exactly how much money. And what I found is it's nearly impossible to find it because there's a lot of double speak. Like, for example, one year it said they spent almost $3.8 million on the animal shelter. And then 2 years later, after that year has been done for 2 years, they're like, no, wait, we changed that from 3.8 million to 1.6 million. And so it's just like, well, what was it and where did all that money go, or what did we do with that money, or why is that so different? I think it's the tune of $2.6 million difference. How can that discrepancy happen? And so I'm still working on and learning on it, and they didn't address those concerns at all. However, what I did notice was in the March 28th meeting of 2024, that there was an item agenda presented on the consent agenda. So this wasn't discussed openly at the meeting, but it was something that caused me to have a question. And so you can look here, it says it's a resolution to take action on awarding a board to a traffic signal located at Antlian Memorial to Willis Electric Company. Okay, great. That is a new intersection that's gained a lot of traffic. It needs a traffic signal. I totally agree. And so we look at the considerations, and then we have the funding impact, and the staff recommendation is for the Willis Electric Company. They would award the bid amount of $513,000. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. And then I look here and see that it says, it's to the street, it's allocated through the street maintenance fee. And so, unfortunately, we were in and out of Abilene over several years, and I wasn't around to be a part of the street maintenance fee conversation. And so, to my understanding, the city had neglected the streets for 30 years. They needed to do something or they were never going to get out of this hole. And they needed about $10 million in order to make some decent progress on repairing the neglected streets. And so they came up with this brilliant idea to collect a street maintenance fee to repair and fix these street problems we have. And so I'm thinking, wow, that doesn't make sense to me that a new traffic signal would be included in the street maintenance fee funds. It seems to me it would be for old streets, repairing those that are hard to drive on and whatnot, street signs that are hard to read or whatever it is. But a new traffic signal did not seem to make sense to me. So as a average citizen, I thought, well, I'm not going to just come out and accuse them of something I don't know anything about. So I started doing research. I asked questions. I looked around. I tried to find people who are more experienced than me to find out what's going on. And basically, it caused questions in several people's opinions as to why this was the way it was. And I have not found a successful way to navigate through the city website. So I'm kind of like shooting blind here to some degree, because I can only research what I can research. And if I can't find it, I can't find it. And if you don't know dates, and if you don't pay attention to consent agenda meeting notes, then you're really going to be lost, because that's where all the information is presented to basically tell you what's going on. And of course, how many years has it been? 2018, it's now that's 6 years ago. So how many city council notes would I have to look through? It was a really complicated process. So I felt I had done as much due diligence as I could. So I presented this to the council on last Thursday at the meeting. And I said, listen, it's concerning to me that we're paying for a new traffic signal. I called it a street light or a light fixture and was corrected. Why we're spending that on streets when the street maintenance fee should be repairing old streets? And they said, oh, no, the ordinance actually says that we can do this. And I was like, wow, I was shocked. I really was thinking that they were going to say, oh, wow, we just had a typo. That's supposed to be the maintenance fund, or that's supposed to be the a project fund or something. And they're like, no, we totally have the legitimate way to do that. Well, I appreciate the discussion. I was shocked because I think we've been nickeled and dimed enough as citizens of this community, and to find that they're putting in new projects because they're not budgeting or separating or keeping a clear line of how they're working things, it's very concerning to me. And I feel like if I would have a conversation with most people, well, in fact, the most often comment made by people concerned about what's going on are the streets. And so after the meeting during executive session, I had several people from the city office come and tell me how to figure things out. And I was very appreciative. So I found something new that I have never found on the city. And it's not because I haven't looked on this page. It just was something that didn't register to me. So I want to show you. Here is the home page of the city website. And then you're going to go to government and open up the city. Where is she? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's try that again. Go to the departments and open up the city secretary's webpage, her page. And I've looked on boards and services here, and it's just really interesting. I just never looked down here at the quick links. So if you look here, you can look at Abilene Abilene Code of, actually don't look at the Abilene Code one, look at the city ordinances, and it comes in this little file directory. And so you can come down here and find, oh, look, there's 2018 ordinances. And because I was also handed a printed copy of the ordinance, I know the number, which was awesome. I mean, I've never been given a copy of anything at a meeting before. This was like super exciting to me. I felt like I was in a new level. So if you come here, it'll say Ordinance 35-2018. So you can see there's 2018 is the year they were created, establishing a street maintenance fee. And so what was so amazing was after executive session, Councilman McAllister came up and showed me this ordinance because he thought me reading it was very helpful when I hadn't even had a chance to go to a computer to look and see what the ordinance said. And so it says here, whereas, let me find where actually they said that was. I believe it's on, no. So it says the street maintenance fee will be a part of an overall approach utilized in maintaining the Abilene City streets. Okay, and this was voted 54 to 47. That was how it was voted in by 54% versus 47. About 9,000 people, I think, voted this in. So basically about 5,000 people said, yes, we want this. 5,000 people in a city of 80,000 registered voters got to decide we get a fee. Okay, so it is, right, that's the best place to say. It'll be an overall approach utilized in maintaining the city streets. I think there's something here. Let me look and see real quick. Yeah, I really think that's the best place. That basically covers it. It wasn't just for old projects. It could be for new signal lights. So I think that would be, and like I told the city council and the city manager, I don't think they're doing anything wrong or illegal, but I do think that that's something that we as a city can say, hey, listen, let's set aside money. We should be able to set aside money to work on maintaining new streets and things like that. But why are we using the maintenance fee that's supposed to be getting us out of the 30-year hole? Why are we doing that? And so I think that's a great thing to email your councilman and say, listen, I don't know why y'all are doing this and who gave who permission, but let's focus on getting the 10 million to get us out of the hole of these street repairs. I mean, there is like over $60 million worth of streets that need attention. And I know that $500,000 doesn't necessarily seem like a lot, but to me, it seemed like it would go to working towards at least one street or fixing something that is not of a new project in nature. And so I don't know how you feel. Give me your thoughts. Let me know. Do you think it's okay that possibly people voted on this and we're okay with that? It's just one of those things that, I'm still navigating through, but I just thought this was weird, and I thought their response was weird. And so I would love your feedback and thoughts. But now what I want you to know is that anytime you want to know what's going on, I found this great. So you're probably not going to be like me. You're probably not going to necessarily need to know all this stuff, because I'm looking a little bit deeper than most people are. But I also found that when they don't have agendas for old city meetings, I can come here and look at city council resolutions. And so this is kind of like another way to see what's going on through the consent agenda that we don't have access to anymore. So there's a lot of good information here. I'm so excited. I've been looking through and reading all the information, and I found some things that I didn't know. But one of the things I will say is it took me I've been coming to the city council meetings for about 2.5 years, and no one has ever offered me one iota of help to figure out how to navigate this. So for not one, not two, not three, or three people came up and said from the city, or I guess it was 2 employees and a councilman, and they came up and were like, here, let me show you how this is. And I'm like, that's awesome, because, I think we need to talk about this more. So that was my thoughts on that. Again, had I not asked questions, I'm not really sure what I would have done, but I think it's hard to get people to respond. And now, because of the way I was able to engage with the city manager, he has given me permission to reach out to him and ask him questions. And he said he would answer them. So we'll see where that goes. I'm not really sure. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was that the city budget did pass 6-1. And I thought it was really interesting because the Abilene Reporter News, let's see if I can pull that up on this, because I want you to see the thing that happened. How we just don't get the full picture. So again, the city council started this discussion in March. The city employees have been working on budgeting for it. We had a bonus discussion in June talking about the crisis that we had of having to cut a lot of stuff in June. Then the proposed budget was published July 4th. Then we had a 3-hour workshop on Monday the 22nd talking about city budget things. And there were 5 opportunities for the citizens to talk about what they wanted. And then 2 weeks later, it had its final reading at the August 8th meeting. And this is what the Abilene Reporter News says at the August 8th meeting. How much tax hike coming to Abilene? And so I get so tired of this, and I don't know why. Diana Groom, I believe, is leaving the Abilene Reporter News, but she talks about a tax hike coming to Abilene. So what she doesn't talk about is that the city council worked really hard to limit how much, if any, increase was taking place, and they did have to do a small $2.6 million certificate of obligation instead of the 7.5. So I say small relative to what it could have been, and so it could have been like, I think, 7.5 cents per hundred, but it's at 7.6. So it was minimal tax hike. Actually, I take that back. This includes the voter approved tax hike. So it says a tax hike coming to Abilene. Well, everybody in Abilene knew when they voted for the $15 million zoo bond and the $28 million recreation center bonds that they were going to get a tax hike. So this is just so, I guess it's to get your attention and make me frustrated, right? And now I'm looking at their website and showing it to you. So they show you the information and they improve how it impacts homeowners. So one of the things I wanted to point back out to you, or I guess I could add it here because I did post it on my Facebook page, was I'm looking through old meeting notes because I'm trying to figure some stuff out, and sometimes I come across fun things. And so I found this interesting comment or interaction between Councilman McAllister and Councilman Savage in 2018 at the budget workshop, where they were talking about a $10 tax hike. So we're talking at about a $5, but this was a $10 tax hike. And Councilman McAllister was saying, it's not that much, it's just $10. And then Councilman Savage was like, well, it matters to some people who have lots of property, they're business owners who pay a lot in taxes, and it matters to them. This is real money. And it was just a fun exchange. And if I can add it here, I'll let you watch it right now.
Fortunate in many of those years is, we kept the tax rate the same. Now, it still is a little bit, it costs people more because their homes are worth more. Were you able to figure that?
Yeah, 1 penny on the tax rate would affect the average homestead by $10.85
Annually?
annually.
So $10.85 per year.
Per year.
Is that, and that's per
Per home, $108,000 homestead.
So
The average value.
So that's the average. We have a lot of homes that are less than that,
understand.
right? A lot of homes that are more than that.
But if we went, so at 0.7751 to 0.7813 would cost, that's a penny. So that's about $10 more a year average. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that's about 0.0062, so it'd be a little over a half, so probably $6 to $7.
Okay.
Per year.
Okay. I'm just wanting to get some numbers. Okay. Thank you.
I see. I understand what Councilman McAllister is saying. And I certainly won't argue about if we're talking about the average as $10 a year. But as you just stated, there's a lot of people that are over average, but it's not just homes that are taxed, it's commercial property and everything else. And if a guy, and there's several guys in this town that own millions of dollars in property, some of their tax bills are nearly $1 million a year in property taxes combined. That when we're talking about just pennies and $10 here on average, there's people that's real money. It really is. It's
It's real money for me too. It's real money for everybody.
But what was interesting is that it sounded like it was copied and pasted to the last council meeting. And it happened again with Councilman McAllister. So I don't know. Now I'm curious to see if he says it at every budget workshop. Well, it's only this much improvement. Again, it's just, those are things that kind of strike me as funny from time to time. So what we've seen is that we have to pay attention and we have to know what's going on. And why did the street maintenance fee conversation get so much response? I don't know. Maybe it's because they want to make us happy and make us, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I do think it's good when I get responses from them, and I'm going to move forward and see how I can work on understanding the financial part of this process in the city better. Because, I did see when I reached out to the director of finance, Mike Raines, and asked him to explain to me how in the proposed budget for the 2024-2025 year, the proposed budget or the proposed animal shelter cost was 2.1, and the approved or the revised was 5.1 or 5.5 million, 2.1 million versus 5 million. And I was just like, hey, that seems like a lot. How is it that this tax hike or this increase is like $3 million? And he said, well, it's, there's an approved allotment for a 4% adjustment if needed. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But I know the 3 million is more than 4%. How does that make sense? And probably that's where my crazy thought process went along. And I did find that there were some more reasonable numbers in the budgets that helped me understand what he was talking about, so it wasn't so crazy. But I appreciated him getting back to me. And I tell you, the finance people, they're so nice. I was I was silenced. Like I was dumbstruck or awestruck. I don't know. She came and sat down and said, can I help you? Tell me what you need to know. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to say. And so it was just really good to know that sometimes people are listening and we can get our voices heard. And so in the days to come, I'm working on some projects to help us figure out how we can take off small bites of being more involved in what happens in our city so that we're not just kind of lost until the next time the election comes on. Because, we do have a really big election coming up in November. And it seems now between the candidates more than ever, nationally, we have really a big choice to make if we want to bring restoration to what our country has always been known for, or do we want to take it off and probably not see this nation ever again if we continue voting in the people like we have currently in office. We're going to lose our country. And it really feels more than ever a very stark contrast between the two choices. And so I hope to really encourage you to make sure you know the difference between the the two options for president and vice president in this upcoming election. Also, we have some really big senatorial races with incumbent Ted Cruz and the person running against him. They're very, very different people, and so it is not even like, you don't have to wonder. You have to decide what is your position going to be, and what kind of nation and what kind of state do you want to live in, and what kind of city you want to live in. And so, we're going to have city council elections again in the spring. And so it is a never-ending process that we're going to have to start getting more involved, so that it doesn't feel like we are doing a couch to 5K every time a new election is upon us, because it's exhausting to live that way. So we just have to work on being in the know and being more involved. And I hope to offer you some options on how to do that in the days to come. But I hope that you've learned a little bit today about how the process works and how to find ordinances and resolutions, which matter, because if you do not read the fine print, like a lot of people don't do, they're like, yeah, I want a new improvement at the zoo, not realizing that was a tax hike, or yeah, we want our rec centers to be better, not realizing that was a tax hike. If we don't know what those are, then we can't really blame them. And that's what I told the council and city manager. I said, listen, we voted these things in. It's not like this is something we didn't approve. The problem is, I don't think we know what we're approving, and I want to help you understand that better. So it would be really awesome if you could help subscribe and share this with your family and friends, so that they can too know what's going on, because I think there's a time where we're going to need to know more information in a easier to find way, and I hope to be that source for you. So thanks for watching. I hope that you have learned how to make sure you can be educated, informed, and how to make an impact in Abilene and the Big Country.